Hello friends, welcome once again. I am Manish Maharshi, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Government Dunga College, Bikaner. In this video, we will resume the poem Andre del Sarto, and this video is the fourth video in this series. Andre del Sarto is a dramatic monologue written by Robert Browning, the famous poet of Victorian age, as we have already discussed the age and the writings of the Browning. We know that Browning is famous for his dramatic monologue and his presentation of the psyche or the soul of his characters. Though through his characters we also come to know the view of Browning about life, hope, love, art, artist, God, science, evolution, and death. His characters are very interesting and sometimes beyond the understanding of general mind and standards. To understand the characters of Browning, one has to broaden the horizon of one's mind and raise the compass of one's belief and standards through which he or she sees life and world, which means that one has to have a little patience and compassion to understand his characters. An overtly critical mind cannot understand his characters. In this dramatic monologue, Andre himself is the speaker and his wife Lucrezia is the listener. Through the speech of Andre, we come to know about all the moments that is taking place in this dramatic monologue. In the previous videos, we have already discussed that in this dramatic monologue, Andre is trying to pacify her wife Lucrezia because he had a fight with her. As we move forward in this poem, we see that Andre sees his life as unsuccessful in every field and sees a sense of mediocrity in his art and even in his relationship with his wife. Andre projects his mood into the nature itself and says that the twilight which is outside in the nature is also covering his whole life. His life is a twilight with no bright lights or no intense darkness. It is dull, mediocre, and grey shade that is covering his whole life. Before I start the explanation of next stanza, first I will read the text and then I will explain these lines. There's the bell clinking from the chapel top. That length of convent wall across the way holds the tree safer, huddled more inside. The last monk leaves the garden, days decrease, and autumn grows, autumn in everything. Ah, the whole seems to fall into a shape, as if I saw alike my work and self, and all that I was born to be and do. A twilight peace. Love, we are in God's hand. How strange now looks the life He made us lead. As Andre and his wife Lucrezia are sitting in their home, they hear the sound of the clinking of the bell from the nearby chapel, that is, the church outside. It reminds him of the chapel building, which is lined by the growth of trees and the walls of the chapel. This chapel is keeping trees safe, and there are many more trees inside of the wall. And he imagines that even the last monk is leaving after performing his prayer. The days are shortened, and as this is the autumn season starting, Andre senses that autumn is growing outside the nature, and suddenly he feels that this autumn, which is spread outside in the nature, is also covering the life he is living. Andre metaphorically compares his life and his age to the season of autumn, where leaves are falling and trees are naked without any bright, beautiful flowers. He feels that in this life also there is a season of autumn going on, and his talents and his hopes are shed down. He says, autumn in everything, which means Andre, as if suddenly notices that everything is falling into a harmonious note. The the autumn outside in the nature and the autumn in his life. There is a synchronicity. This autumn is seen equally in his artistic work, the painting he has painted, and in his personality. He, as if concluding the doing and happening of his life as a twilight piece, he says that the whole seems to fall into a shape as if I saw alike my work and self and all that I was born to be and do a twilight piece. He feels that he did not achieve the great heights in the field of art and nor his personal life holds any great satisfaction for him. In the next line, Andre suddenly, as if tries to find the reason of his unsuccess, says that love we are in God's hand, which means that he is not responsible if he was not able to achieve any greatness in his life. God wants we lead the life in the way the God wants us to live. And now, retrospectively, we see that the life we led in is strange. He means that it is difficult for him to grasp and understand the life he lived, but this is what God has decided for him. In the next stanza, Andres says, so free we seem, so fettered fast we are. I feel he laid the fetters, let it lie. This chamber, for example, turn your head, all that's behind us. You don't understand, nor care to understand about my art, but you can hear at least when speak. And that cartoon, the second from the door, it is a thing. Love, so such things should be. Behold, Madonna, I am bold to say I can do with my pencil what I know, what I see, what bottom at my heart I wish for, if I ever wish so deep. Do easily too. When I say perfectly, I do not boast. Perhaps yourself are judge, who listened to the legates talk last week, and just as much they used to say in France. In these lines, Andre resonates the Rousseau's saying that men we are born free but everywhere we are in chains. Andre says that it only appears that everybody is free to live the kind of life he wants. We human beings seems to enjoy the freedom to create the life we want to live. We can do whatever we wish and hope to do, but Andre says that it is not so. It only appears so. We are not free to live and create the kind of life we want to live. We are chained fast by the will of the God, and we can live the kind of life God wants us to live. We are chained through these chains, though these chains are not visible. These chains keeps us enslaved and directed to live the kind of life God wants us to live. Andre, in a surrendering manner, says that if God has put these chains, then he should not try to free himself, but instead he let the fetters lie. Although it seems that Andre is respecting the will of the God by surrendering to his will, but when closely analyzed, we see that this is not surrender in God's will, but a kind of compromise he is doing after being unsuccessful in his life. After he failed in his life, he wants to put the responsibility on someone else, and here he is putting that responsibility on God and His will. He did not surrender to God's will before he acted, but after the failure of his act. Andre asks Lucrezia to turn her face to see what Andre has painted. He realizes that Lucrezia is no more interested in his art and painting. She does not understand his art, nor does she take takes any special efforts to know and understand his art. He says that although she herself does not understand his art, but she can see the evidence of his being a good artist by listening to the praises showered on him by the outside world who understand his art. He points out to a particular painting, that is the painting of a Madonna, the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ. In the Renaissance period, many artists painted the picture of Madonna, and it was very popular painting in that period. Andre also painted this picture of Madonna. He says that it is a great piece of art. He feels that he can easily paint that piece of art with his pencil without much effort and very skillfully. He can make changes and paint that as far as his knowledge of art is concerned, and what he can observe and what lies in the depth of his heart, what he wish, if he can wish deep. He feels that to paint the Madonna there should be there should be a very a kind of depth in one's soul, but he he can only wish on to a limited depth. He sounds as if he is boasting about his art, so he says to Lucrezia that he is not boasting, as she can judge his art by remembering what the legates said about his craftsmanship and talent and the praises showered on him in the France. Andre was appointed to paint the palace by French king. So this is for today's video. In the next video we will resume the remaining stanzas of this poem.